Hey, this is Ryan of Happy, Healthy, Vegan, and sorry I lost my voice today, but anyway, thanks to our viewers who wrote to us to let me know that there's another why I'm no longer vegan video person. Once again, it's some big influencer I'd never heard of. His name is Gaz Oakley. Here's a little clip of him being featured on plant-based news.
Hello, I'm Gaz Oakley of Avant-Garde Vegan. I'm a vegan chef, YouTuber, and cookbook author, and I'm doing an interview with Plant-Based News today.
And here he is, speaking in front of a full crowd at the vegan campout in the United Kingdom, where he's from. And he's got 1.84 million followers on his YouTube channel. So when a person of this size quits being vegan, it's a pretty big deal. So anyway, as always, I don't care if the person has 5 subscribers or nearly 2 million subscribers like Gaz has. I'm looking for two very specific things. One, I want to see if there was some absolute and compelling reason why this person had to no longer be vegan. They're going to die or something horrible was going to happen to them. And secondly, I like to pick up cues on how they're talking to, at least in my mind, see if they were even vegan in the first place. I make a judgment on that. But anyway, let's jump right in. Oh, but before we do that, I need a little bit of context before we jump right in, actually. He's recently gone on this new kick in life where he's moved more out into the wild, the wilderness, and he's trying to live in accordance with being at one with nature, avoiding unnatural things and stuff like that. So anyway, now with that in mind, let's jump right in.
You know, I went through, like everyone, you know, not batting an eyelid of being able to get strawberries in the middle of winter in a plastic package. As tomatoes, the same thing. You know, this is all unnatural, and they're sprayed with God knows what. It's like, it's awful for our bodies, awful for the environment around me.
Well, so what I'm picking up here, some kind of appeal to nature fallacy as to why he might not want to be vegan anymore, living in his wild state in the wilderness. I mean, he's complaining about being able to buy strawberries and tomatoes in the middle of winter, and that's unnatural. I mean, what do you mean by unnatural? That they're grown in outer space and plastic? I mean, no. I mean, just ask Google, is it unnatural to eat strawberries grown in greenhouses? Like, no, it isn't unnatural at all. It's simply a modern method of controlled environment agriculture. I suggest that Gaz checks out this study about is local food best, and they're talking about greenhouse growing in Switzerland. It says replacing the high impact import foods by local waste heat crops cuts carbon footprint by 27%. He should love this. This is totally natural and green friendly and all that eco stuff that he's so into right now. The bottom line is that just because food wasn't grown in greenhouses like 200 years ago or 2,000 years ago doesn't mean that this method of growing food is unnatural, and it certainly doesn't mean that the food produced in this manner is somehow horrible or deficient or going to make you grow a third head or something.
So then, you know, I started growing my own food and realizing that that led me to, so yeah, sorry,
That's okay.
so the audience knows, I went plant-based 10 years ago and was very strictly vegan, you know, following the rule set.
Okay, this kind of language really bugs me. Strictly vegan? I mean, you either are vegan or you're not. There's nothing strict about it. And talking about this rule set, I mean, what kind of veganism are you following? It sounds like you went down some crazy path. I mean, here is the rule set, and it's not even a rule set. It's the definition. It's simply a moral stance against animal cruelty and exploitation, not viewing animals as objects to be exploited for your human benefit.
And, you know, you look at the atrocities that industrial farming and intensive animal agriculture is hell on earth. You know, these sheds that these animals are kept in is awful. And I watched a few documentaries, and it was enough to make me think, wow, I need to do the complete opposite of this and go plant-based and vegan and just shun it completely.
Okay, but...
However, you know, many years on now, 10 years on of I was strictly eating plant-based, and now connecting with nature and growing my food, the vegan rule set doesn't fit within that. So like me, the thought of wearing plastic leather shoes, which I once would have been so excited to find that Nike are making now a vegan version of their Air Force Ones, you know, in a plastic leather. The thought of wearing them and them maybe one day just falling on my compost pile, not that they would, but they were to, and never giving back to the land, never decomposing, is like, Why would I have that in my lifestyle?
Okay, so let me get this right. So now that you're living out in nature, in the wild, and you have some new things that you're vibing about, and natural versus unnatural, and plastic is not in alignment with your current values, so you're okay now with animals being killed because you have a thing against plastic because it doesn't decompose because it's unnatural? First of all, with this point of view, you absolutely disagree with what veganism is. You see animals as objects to be exploited for our benefit. If you see it morally justified to have animals slaughtered so you can have leather shoes, when you can just have plastic ones that don't involve killing animals.
Going back to the land never decomposing is like, why would I have that in my lifestyle?
So Gaz says he'll never wear the vegan leather and only wear animal-derived leather because the vegan leather never decomposes. Well, he's missing two key points. First of all, vegan leather can decompose. Again, I would recommend Gaz actually do some research rather than go with his vibes when he's sitting out in the forest there. Check out this study here about mushroom mycelium for developing leather-like materials, and the study says, overall, the results demonstrate mycelium-based leathers as a biodegradable, low-impact alternative that can replicate the visual and functional characteristics of traditional leather. In contrary to the gaslighting that Gaz is given about vegan leather being not biodegradable, while his real animal-derived leather is not completely biodegradable as well. Particularly, the chemicals immersed in it during the tanning are not biodegradable. In fact, there is over 170 chemicals used in tanning leather that could harm soil and animals and worsen air pollution. Bottom line is both vegan and non-vegan forms of leather have their pluses and minuses, and both indeed have some environmental impacts that aren't that positive. But to choose one as the obvious single winner because it's the best for the environment, it doesn't have any biodegrading problems, it's all natural, that's a bunch of bullshit. If they both have problems, it seems if you really had concerns about animal cruelty and exploitation, you would go with the one that didn't have to involve killing animals for you to have leather.
Same thing with clothing. I only wear natural materials now. So that means that I'm not strictly vegan. And if a vegan sees me wearing these shoes, they'd think, you're wearing it. And I get it, because the leather industry is awful too. But
so he admits he truly understands that animals have to be slaughtered in order for there to be leather for him to wear on his feet. So sounds like he has some tricky workaround to get around this moral dilemma. Let's see what it is.
But my sort of way to wear more natural materials is to only buy secondhand clothes, and that's what I do.
Wow. I get it. So his workaround to get around the immorality of slaughtering animals for leather is to have someone else buy it first and then give it to him. Interesting idea. Well, let's just file that away right now in the back of our minds, and let's see if we can apply that workaround later on in this video.
I just want to eat as locally as possible. I want to know where every item of foods come from. I want to know like the farmer that grew it if I haven't grown it myself.
Okay, but again, how does that make you not able to be vegan? I mean, if you really were concerned about animal cruelty and exploitation, and you also have this side passion for being local and totally natural and knowing the farmers, why can't you combine the two? You could start your own indoor greenhouses and grow all sorts of local foods in your backyard or on a local farm that don't involve killing animals. I don't see why you can't be vegan.
And like relying on like quinoa or avocado or chia seeds to like help the nutrient gaps in my diet, because as humans we can't get all of the nutrients from a plant-based diet without supplementing.
So let me guess, supplements are unnatural, right?
So you're having to take B12, or the cows themselves are supplemented with B12. But I don't want to take synthetic what they call supplements nowadays, because I'm like, that factory that the synthetic supplements were made in could have been woodland before.
Oh my God. Are you serious? That's a whole new excuse. I'll give Gaz credit here. I never heard that one before. I can't take supplements because the supplement factory is standing where a forest should be. I mean, if that were true, there'd be no modern civilization. You'd have no buildings anywhere. Like, this is cult. This is a reductio absurdum of his position. I mean, but wait a minute. all hope is not lost here. I have a brilliant workaround that Gaz can use so he can take his supplements that were made in a factory where a forest should be. Anyway, all he has to do is buy them secondhand, right? Just have someone buy the supplements first and then sell them to a thrift store, and then Gaz can go thrifting and buy his supplements secondhand, just like his leather, and all moral issues are gone. It's totally cool now, right? So Gaz, you can take your supplements, just buy them secondhand. Just have a friend buy them for you first and have your friend just kind of sell them to you a little bit later. Anyway, from everything I've heard him say, there's absolutely no compelling reason why Gaz can no longer be vegan. He just chose not to, for whatever reasons. Yeah, he's relying upon his story about how he's living out in the wild now. He wants to see everything super local. And as I showed, there's nothing incompatible about being vegan and eating super local, especially if you're super passionate and want to invest more time, be a pioneer, use more indoor growing techniques rather than dreaming about this romantic notion of how people lived in the past, like he waxes on here.
I want to do a challenge where I only eat local food in the near future, and that will probably see me eating invasive species like crayfish or venison or pigeon, and I don't know, something I'll look at in the future. But if the documentary that I was shown wasn't like, this is industrial animal farming, veganism is the answer, you need to do this to stop that. If I was actually shown like a society, maybe a culture in a far distant part of the world, or maybe shown like a community in my native country of Wales a few hundred years ago where we lived off the land, we grew our food, we only ate meat when it became available, whether it was like we went fishing or we hunted a local, like an animal, and meat wasn't on every plate, and we just lived and ate locally in harmony with the environment around us. You would think, no, that's the life, that's the way of eating that I need to follow, and I would have done that, not done the other extreme opposite is going vegan, which has so many faults in its own.
Wow, so he'd rather fulfill this fantasy in his mind of how people lived several hundred years ago rather than blaze a trail as a pioneer in modern veganism, using modern food growing, local organic techniques. He'd rather pretend he's some dude from 200 years ago that doesn't have refrigerators, doesn't have food, transportation, doesn't have greenhouses, and eat animal products when it's completely unnecessary. This is just blows my mind. He's absolutely 100% not vegan anymore. I don't know if he was vegan back when he was vegan, but his attitude now is completely one of looking at animals as objects to be exploited for his own personal human benefit. So anyway, leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you've been following this dude. Like I said, I've never heard of him, and this is why I don't watch too many vegan YouTubers, especially the popular ones. They all end up being flakes like this. They're just in it to be popular, and once they see that they're not getting the views that they got like say 5-6 years ago, they move on to something else. So anyway, I'm gonna stay in my little corner here as a little tiny YouTuber, but you're never gonna see me make a freaking why I'm no longer vegan video like this with a bunch of bullshit excuses. So anyway, hit like, share this video, and if you really thought everything Gaz said is totally true and I'm full of crap, well, first of all, you're wrong, but come tell me to my face. Come to my Friday live streams, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and just try to be a decent human, and we can maybe have a little conversation. So I look forward to seeing everyone Friday. So until then, remember, just like being vegan.